Wildfire is a natural part of ecosystems in the southern Blue Ridge Mountains, but a history of fire suppression has drastically altered the landscape. Concerns about widespread fires followed European settlement, and a strong push for fire prevention began in the late 1800s. Aggressive fire suppression tactics have resulted in a radical change in tree composition and ecosystem type. This has had significant negative consequences for the flora, fauna, and people living in the southern Blue Ridge area. However, recent research has shown the benefit of reintroducing fire to the area, and land managers are beginning to follow scientific recommendations for prescribed fire.
The southern Blue Ridge Mountain region encompasses the Appalachian Mountains south from the Virginia border down to northern Georgia.
In the absence of fire, southern Appalachian forest community composition changes and fuel loads increase. Prescribed fire has been introduced as a way to maintain healthy ecosystems and reduce the risk of severe wildfires.
Prescribed fire should be integrated into land management plans, but the criteria for burning should not be solely ecological. Important societal criterion to consider includes human health concerns, soil properties and erosion, direct risk to human infrastructure, and socioeconomic impacts.
The impacts of smoke from prescribed fire are a major threat to human health. People with pre-existing conditions such as asthma are most at risk. Also at risk are the elderly, women, and children. Collaborating with local health practices will allow professionals to get a better idea of the health threat posed by the smoke created by prescribed fires. This data will allow fire professionals to avoid areas that are most at risk. It will also give medical experts an estimation of human health impacts so that they may be better prepared for the aftermath of prescribed fire events.
With any kind of fire, there is always an element of risk and variability. Prescribed fires require land managers to take special precautions to minimize the risk to people in the area. Although rare, prescribed fires have escaped containment in the past. This has resulted in human lives lost and valuable structures destroyed. The southern Blue Ridge region has relatively little agricultural and dense urban areas, and many homes exist within a wildland-urban interface. Many of these structures can be a long way from adequate emergency services, so preventing burns from getting close to these structures is critically important. Because of the inherent unpredictability of fires, there is a need for accurate and adequate buffer zones between burns and communities. Fires in the southern Blue Ridge Mountains compose a significant risk to structures and life, so special care must be taken when selecting areas to burn.
Socioeconomic impacts of prescribed fires are another criterion to be considered. Many mountain communities are considered socially vulnerable, averaging less than $40,000 a year. These communities also tend to fall into fire hotspots and are at high risk to wildfires on a regular basis. This combination of factors results in many dangers for these communities if precautions aren't taken. Prescribed fires resolve several of these risks by removing fuel from wildfires and by firewising the forests, making them more difficult to burn. Given this, it makes sense for prescribed fires to be reintroduced so as to prevent unneeded injuries and damages.
Soil properties should also be considered when deciding to use prescribed fire as a tool for forest restoration. The physical and chemical properties of soil directly affect plant growth, erosion, and biological activity. Nutrient availability and runoff water can greatly be affected, for example. These consequences are typically magnified following years of annual prescribed burns. If precautions are taken, prescribed fire could potentially harm a forest ecosystem for years to come.
Fire is and will continue to be a fact of life in the southern Blue Ridge Mountains. Prescribed fire has the ability to improve the ecological health of forests in the region, but this must be balanced with the societal costs and risks. Sound science is required to balance this equation, and the future health of both natural and human communities depends on the management choices we make.